Chapter 8. Meeting Mercury. Mercury, my house guest, is the cutest little silver kitten with bright blue eyes, Lucy said, leaning towards Sally as she spoke. Your eyes are beautiful blue too, Super Sally. You and Mercury have matching eyes. How fun! Sally grinned as Lucy continued. I named him Mercury because he's the exact color of the element mercury in an old-fashioned thermometer. I have one of those around here somewhere. Have you ever seen one? Lucy started looking around the dining room, distracted from her story. Sally mumbled an "I think so," and put her arm on Lucy's. But please, go on about the cat, Sally urged, eager to stay on track with the story. Oh, yes, Mercury. Where was I? Lucy said, settling back down in her chair. I found him cowering behind a dumpster last night as I was leaving my friend's apartment complex. He was terrified. I had a heck of a time getting him into my car. Normally, I'm pretty good at talking feline, if I do say so myself. Sally laughed. But this little guy was a big challenge. I wrapped him in a towel after dragging him out from under a pile of smelly cardboard and got him in the car. It was quite a feat driving my smart car with a crazed cat on my lap. Don't tell my daughter I did it. She says I drive like an old woman as it is. But we got home safely, and I put him in the hall bathroom so he could have his own space and calm down a bit. Lucy's story was interrupted by a shrieking sound coming from the other side of the house. The ruckus got closer and closer until a white puffball of fur came bolting into the dining room, followed closely by a black and white streak. The white puff went under a long, skinny table against the wall, and the black and white streak stopped abruptly in front of Lucy. "Bishop!" Lucy scolded. "What's gotten into you? You leave Miss Priss alone." Lucy scooped up the white puff of fur from under the table and held it close to her heart. "We girls need to stick together," Lucy cooed, rubbing the head of a beautiful long-haired Persian cat. Miss Priss's eyes were wide open in fright, and Sally liked how one eye was blue and the other was gold. Sally wanted to pet her really badly, but didn't think it was a good idea right now. "Miss Priss is old and a little skittish," Lucy explained to Sally. "She needs to be treated with respect." The last part of her sentence was directed at the black and white cat in front of Lucy. Sally looked down, and her heart filled with joy. "Pinguino!" Sally exclaimed, grinning broadly. Bishop seemed to smile. He walked over to Sally calmly and rubbed his left side against her right Batman boot. Sally giggled, amused by his tail, which was sticking straight up in the air. "I see you already know Bishop," Lucy commented. "He led me to you," Sally said. "I followed him from the kickball field at school to your house." Sally bent down and rubbed Bishop's head. "I'm sorry I called you the Spanish name for penguin," Sally said. "I didn't know your real name. Bishop is much more fitting for you." Bishop looked up and purred. "How many cats do you have?" Sally asked Lucy, remembering the word on the playground blacktop that the crazy cat lady had 37 cats roaming through her property and over her land. "3," Lucy answered. "Rambo, Miss Priss, and Bishop." Sally was disappointed. "But I've rescued lots of cats over the last 2 years since I've lived here in this house." Lucy leaned back, thinking. "I'm pretty sure my count is up to 37 with Mercury. I haven't written him in my book yet." Sally's eyes got big. There was the 37 cats she'd heard about at school. That was too weird, Sally thought. Mercury! Sally was suddenly very worried about the little silver cat in the tree out back. "You never told me how Mercury got up the tree," Sally said urgently. "Ah, yes, we were interrupted, weren't we?" Lucy said. "Where was I?" "You put him in the bathroom last night to calm down," Sally reminded her. "Oh, right. So this morning when I went in to see how he was doing, I must not have shut the door all the way. I was talking to Mercury, trying to get him out from under the sink, when Rambo came barging in." Lucy looked very irritated at the memory. "He doesn't do so well with our guests. He's a bit territorial. He chased Mercury all around the house and out the back door." Sally gasped at the image of poor little Mercury being chased by big old Rambo. "What happened?" she asked. "I tried to catch them. They were way too fast for me. I got to the kitchen window just in time to see Mercury scurry up the tree. I yelled at Rambo and shooed him off, so he wouldn't terrify Mercury any more. Rambo jumped over the fence, and I jumped into the car to go get cat food. I've discovered that the best way to get a cat out of a tree is with soft canned cat food, and I was all out, so I rushed off to the store. Sally jumped up and ran into the kitchen. She came back with a can of ocean white fish and tuna. "I've got to go help Mercury," Sally said intensely. "All right, darling, go right ahead. That's why you're here, isn't it?" Lucy said. Sally nodded blankly and rushed through the glass sliding door out into the backyard. Lucy lifted the white puff ball up to her face and looked in the eyes. "Well, Miss Priss, what do you think?" "I think it's a Super Sally rescue," she chimed. The backyard wasn't nearly as squatty as the front. In fact, it looked like an elegant English garden, with trimmed bushes in happy shapes, festive flowers blooming all over, and a little white table and 2 chairs tucked in the far corner. The best part of the whole yard was a gallant concrete lion statue by the back fence. It was perched on a little hill with stepping stones all around it and a big rock right next to it. He seemed to be watching over the whole garden and house with a look of satisfaction and pride. Something about the expression on the lion's face made Sally feel safe and secure. It felt familiar, like she'd seen that expression somewhere before. She couldn't quite place it, but decided that she liked that Lucy had a statue of the king of all the cats in her backyard. Sally decided that she liked Lucy too. Sally's head wanted to think about everything she'd learned and experienced in this funny orange house, but her heart was urging her to rescue the little silver kitten that was cowering up above her in the tree. Sally listened to her heart and looked up. The tree that Mercury was trapped in was the most ginormous Christmas tree Sally had ever seen, and it was planted right in the middle of the backyard. Sally stood with her head cocked slightly to the left, analyzing the situation. Sally knew Mercury was up there somewhere. She could feel it. As she peered up the massive trunk, she thought she could see the flick of a gray tail 4 branches up. Sally remembered the can of ocean whitefish and tuna in her hand. She popped the metal tab and pulled the lid off, calling up to Mercury. "I have some cat food for you. Come and get it." She sat the can down next to the tree and waited. Nothing. Not even a flick of the faraway gray tail. The food wasn't working. "Come on, Mercury, come and get it," Sally called again, sad that Lucy's strategy wasn't working. Sally needed to think of something else to do to get Mercury down. Food obviously wasn't his motivator. The tree looked way, way too big and scary to climb, so Sally decided to try talking Mercury down. She leaned in to touch the bark and looked up, calling on her brilliant self to help her think of what to say. Sally's pep talk to Mercury was incredibly comforting and encouraging, not in the high squeaky tones she'd used with Orangey, but in gentle alto sounds, almost like cooing. "Mercury, you are an amazing kitty. I know you are. And you are so smart and strong." Sally paused, listening to her heart. "You may be feeling scared right now because you don't know what's going to happen, but I want you to know that it's all going to be okay." Sally took a deep breath, surprised by the lump in her throat. She went on. "You are courageous and brave. You don't have to go through this alone. I am here for you." Sally paused again, thinking. "And my family is here for you too. Mom, Dad, Alex, Rinny." The thought of Rinny made Sally stop her speech abruptly. Sally realized something. She had missed Rinny's birthday dinner last night. That could have been Rinny's last birthday dinner ever, if there were complications during the upcoming heart surgery. And Sally missed it. Sally was overwhelmed with grief and fear and sadness. She slumped down the base of the tree and burst into tears, pulling her blue blanket with the pink hearts on it around her. Sobs came in waves, and Sally's little heart finally wrung out all of the feelings it had been carrying around about Rennie's upcoming surgery. Sally was scared. She hadn't let herself feel that until right now. She pulled her blanket cape tighter around her and dabbed at the tears that were dripping off her chin. All that anger and mad and I'm right stuff yesterday was just a distraction, trying to hide Sally's fear from herself. But here it was now, all laid out flat and deflated in front of her. It didn't feel nearly as scary now that she knew it was there. Sally wept again, letting all of the questions and confusion and not knowing drain out of her onto the ground. When she was done crying, she felt exhausted and tired and spent. She sat huddled in her blanket cocoon, staring blankly in front of her. Something brushed Sally's left knee. Startled, she blinked and looked inside her blanket cocoon. There, in between her knees, were two bright blue eyes set in silver fur. They looked up at her intently. It was Mercury. Sally resisted the urge to squeal and scoop him up. Instead, she carefully lowered her knees and made room in her cocoon on her lap. Mercury cautiously stepped on her thigh, then bravely climbed into her lap and curled up. Sally wasn't sure how long she and Mercury sat there. At first they had been very still, staring at each other in the cocoon, testing each other's trust level and deciding what to do. But eventually Mercury let Sally rub him behind the ears. He began to purr, and the two seemed to gain courage and strength from each other. By the time Lucy came out with the bundt cake, a bowl of fresh blueberries, and a pitcher of milk, the tears and cocoon were long gone, and the Sally-Mercury bond was strong. "You are a superhero," Lucy whispered as she walked to the little white table and put the tray down. "You have rescued Mercury. Well done." Sally felt incredibly proud, even though she hadn't really done anything except cry in her cocoon and face her fear. Mercury had come down all by himself. She didn't really understand why, but that was okay. All of Sally's questions and confusion and not knowing were still right there in front of her on the ground. She hadn't found any answers. But that didn't really matter. Right then, having a warm body in her lap was more of an answer than any words could have been.